So the motto has been that Asia pumps, New York dumps. We'll see today if we're going to get exactly the same thing. And we saw it yesterday, right? Price coming up into resistance, rejecting over there, coming all the way back down to close to red candles in a row. If we get the third today, very likely that you're going to retest the lows. Unfortunately, yesterday, I didn't have much good news for the bulls. Today, we'll see if that changes. I will show you what you need to see from the bulls in order to recover and reclaim some absolutely critical levels. Otherwise, bears remain in control. There is some good trades in the stock market that's still there. Smash the like button. Let's get straight into the show content. Quick look at banter bubbles over here. A couple of coins bouncing on the hourly over there, but a lot of the dailies are still down quite significantly. And if you invested in the market, well, you probably know it, right? You're not getting blindsided by any of these small pumps that happen when you realize that overall the prices have come down quite significantly off of those highs, right? Just using Zcash as an example, which is up 11%, right? So there's a lot of work to be done from the bulls. We need to see them shift the trend. The time is running out. We've spoken about that a lot over the last couple of weeks to months, and it's really do or die. And unfortunately, it looks like things that we've been focused on for the last couple of weeks, like the 3-week MACD, which is about to cross towards the downside, is most likely going to take place, because to save that, bulls need to close price by the end of this week above $121,000. Now, crazier things have happened before, but it's unlikely, right? Let's be realistic. That's very, very, very unlikely. So stock market continues towards the upside. There would be a trade opportunity in the Dow Jones. I'll show you why. But there it is. Breakout still going towards the upside, back tested, got a little bit scary over there, but S&P 500 trailing up over here towards, we're going to just track this pivot level. That's our plan of action. So depending on when it hits, it's going to be around that $7,000 to $7,100 region. Dow Jones over here expanding towards the upside. And then I think, the opportunity is probably going to be in the NASDAQ, right? So the NASDAQ coming back into that mid-range level, testing a support. Theoretically, you got a nice little 1.5 to 2 to 1 risk to reward ratio over there. That would look something like this. If you are looking for a trade, right, getting in over there and trading it up to the 161.8% level, that's a little bit of an opportunity. Of course, if you get a little bit more of a pullback, you'll get a cleaner entry, something like that. That shifts it to about a 2 to 1. And you'd expect if the S&P 500 is breaking to new all-time highs, Dow Jones broke to new all-time highs, chances are that NASDAQ is going to do exactly the same thing. So that's one thing that I'm looking out for. MicroStrategy short trade that we're in continues to print. MicroStrategy down 28% since our entry over there. And I'm not really a fan of double bottoms, which means very high probability that this begins to fall through and drop a little bit lower. A quick look over here at the Whale Trades website. Negative skew of 2.5%, not too significant, neutral within the market. Market in capitulation, though, which is pretty interesting in terms of the sentiment now dropping to 15%. So pretty significant drop over there. When you see these drops, it is probably a good time to pay attention, because you can get some sort of a mean reversion. And I guess it makes technical sense why the market would be so fearful, because it continues to bleed. Altcoins continue to go down, and Bitcoin now is threatening some of those key support levels, like the all-important psychological $100,000 level. It lines up with your 50% fib. It lines up with the 50 EMA as well. And everybody wants to see that 50 EMA hold on the weekly time frame. Breaking and holding below that, for many, signifies the start of the bear market and the end, the official end of the bull market. And therefore, I guess this is why the sentiment is really so heightened at the moment. So what do you want to be paying attention to over here is if you do get a little, dips and drops below those key psychological numbers, like the $100,000 mark, and that lines up over here with an increase in liquidations over 1 billion, that may creates a little bit of a buy opportunity, but that's a low time frame trade, right? So no trend shifts, trends are down, low time frame shift in sentiment over there, and especially if it's met with an increase in the skew over here, where it reaches, I would say, like 5, 6, 7, 8%, anywhere above 5% is going to be significant. Given this level of fear, that creates major bounce opportunities in the market, and they're tradable. You can take those trades. Unfortunately, the wins out the sales, we spoke about that yesterday, and it continues to be so with the daily exchange volume coming towards the downside. And that's why the market looks so heavy, right? It looks like it just wants to fall through. Weeklies probably going to get an outflow week again. Dailies, we had one inflow, then followed by an outflow on the ETFs. So money's still leaving the market. We'll see what happens with the government shutdown. I think they voted on it yesterday, and if they're going to lift that or not, right? So that's one thing to keep an eye on. Still, that lines up as a potential as a catalyst, right? That could create an upside move. But unfortunately, because bulls have left it for so long, even if they do get some sort of a sentiment shift that reverts you from this 15 on the fear and greed index up to, let's say, like 40, 50, because you're putting in a big bounce, because everyone's optimistic and excited that the government's reopening and QE is coming and all these fancy things, but it's met with low volume and lower highs. In other words, you're coming into underside resistance. What was previous support flips into resistance. That becomes a massive, massive warning sign. We'll cross that road when it gets there. That's why put the bell notification on. Make sure that you follow me on social media. Everything is linked on the Whale Trades website, which is also in the description below. By the way, if you want to go and check it out, that is completely free to use. And you'll find all of my socials over there. Follow me over there. And I will, of course, let you know if any of those major shifts actually do take place. So there's the key psychological level, also technical level. It's not only psychological, but technical. It's 6-digit Bitcoin. Everyone wants to see that hold. If you start to break below that, the sentiment probably gets a little bit worse. But my line in the sand is pretty simple. It's always been this. It's breaking the stop and reversal indicators, bearish, and a double down on that bearishness if you start to hold below the 21 exponential, which you are below. So therefore, this is great that it's support, but it's not a major level for me. I do see it as something that could bounce and reverse price, but I'm more interested in the posturing of the 21 EMA over there, which is clearly bearish. That doesn't mean that I'm shorting the market to zero. It just means that I'm in capital preservation mode and I hold a large cash position, pretty much all in cash, right? Alrighty, we still want to see this. This could be salvage. You can actually vote as well in the poll while you like the video. Go to the like button, smash that over there, and then go through to the poll. Bulls are facing their final hour. By the final hour, I don't mean a literal hour. It's just a saying. For those of you that don't come from an English background, final hour just means time's running out. And I would say that they need to make a move this week, right? What do you think? Very unlikely. 28% of you have said that. 38% possibly. 31% of you say it's the final shakeout, which basically gives us around 70% of you that are still optimistic. You know, I mean, say your bullish prayers. I do hope that it moves towards the upside as well, for your guys' sake and for mine. You know, for my sake, because we are in the business of attention, right? Of course, there's no secret over there. So I prefer for the market to move towards the upside. But you need the bulls to strike back very, very, very soon. You can see this RSI is now threatening that trend line, and failure to get back above the yellow line at 50, which is running horizontally, is going to be problematic. If you do start to reject from there, then you have to genuinely consider that, you know, maybe that's it. Maybe the top is in. And we spoke about it. The 3-week is going to be confirming on the MACD in 3 days and 17 hours, unless you see an absolutely stellar rally, which means that this 3-week candle has to go from red to green in order to absolutely unavoid that death cross, or not death cross, but the bearish cross over here that's going to be taking place with the MACD. So I did get the reverse indicator to double check on that. Some of you asked for that on YouTube. So the number to beat is 121,500. And here you got it. Daily chart, also clear, obvious level, big resistance, 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 flipped into support, support. So your clear horizontal, 108,388. You rallied into that, rejected. Yesterday, you rallied up again, and then it led into yet another down candle. What happens if you're setting in the high for today and this candle turns out to be red? Well, unfortunately, then you're going to be coming in for these lows at 98K, and they're probably not going to last, unfortunately, right? They're not going to hold over there. We're still in a low volume environment, which does mean that if the volume is low, the liquidity books are thin, the order books are thin, it means that one big player can come in with a massive buy or massive sell. And if they do put in a massive buy and the volume rises over there, they could get up, right? They could get it back above that key level. But it's very risky. That's all you need to understand. It's very, very risky to be long on swing long, meaning you're buying spot Bitcoin, big portions of Bitcoin, big amounts of Bitcoin or capital, according to whatever your bankroll looks like, to hold for the long term. It's very, very dangerous until you get above the yellow line. that is the one that you want to watch, right? So at minimum, you want to get above there, 108,388. Let's see where that lines up with this level over here. This is currently trending towards the downside, but if you look at that 21 weekly EMA, that's at about 109,000 and dropping, right? So once this week prints, you might have confluence between that 21 EMA and the daily level that I've just said that you need to recover. So there it is, lower lows, lower highs. The Tuesday high that has been set is one of the key levels to reclaim now. You're still waiting for that. Liquidity, right? Let's see what the heat maps look like over here. Are they significant? They are actually pretty, okay, that's a weekly, excuse me. I thought we were on the daily, but the weekly, $98,000, there's liquidity over there. 107,000, we got about an equal amount. It's around 50 million. And then let's just quickly see what those dailies look like. So they're not that significant. Remember, I say significant is anything above 20 million. So thin order books, not much going on over here. Lack of positioning, anyone's game. Right now, the trend is down, so it's the bears' game for now. But the bulls could strike back, right, at any moment. We are expecting that this death cross is almost inevitably going to take place. And even if it gets exciting with price rallying into that, remember the dotted line, which I'll maybe just make a little bit bigger for you guys to all see at home. We'll make it 3 points, and let's make it, let's leave it dotted over there. You guys can see it clearly. That is Thursday. That is going to be your bear moon. So the bull moon hasn't amounted to much. You got a little bit of a pump off the bull moon. Even if it gets you into that, in my opinion, that's going to be a kiss of death, and you're probably going to come down one more time. So even if you rally up over here, it's still not a long, right? Even recovering back above this, I would still have the stance for the swing traders, the investors out there, that your best bet is going to be still to wait for another pullback. So basically, if you're bullish, what you're going to be wanting and hoping to see is maybe a little bit of a W formation playing out. You rally straight through that 50, 200 EMA death cross, and then you're going to lead into the bear moon, which is going to create either a pullback or consolidation, but at least you'll have a bit better structure. So I'll use the highlighter to show you what that would look like. We've drawn it out. You would have something like this. You'd rally up, you'd reject, and then you'd come in at some point towards the end of November or beginning of December for a higher low. And then this is going to be the safer buy, right? This one over here. Buying into that is going to be much safer for the longer term players out there. Otherwise, it's really in the bears' court right now. They're in control. And even if you spike up over here, I think the most likely outcome is a rejection. I don't think it's that likely that you're going to rally through. I think you're probably going to run into that kiss of death. You're going to reject, and you're probably going to make new lows. Unfortunately, right? That is the truth of the matter. And I guess the big question, the multi-billion-dollar question is, are we playing out this? Are we just playing out one of these corrective phases like the reds over here that you've seen before, all these other previous red times that led into big expansive moves towards the upside previously? Or is this the start of the bear market, right? Is this the start of the bear market that's going to lead prices much lower? Well, time will tell. Because we're late in the cycle, we're not at the start of the cycle down here, right? We're late in the cycle. It's been a bull run for like 3 years. Because that's the case, I think that you need to be really, really cautious over here when it comes to your trades. And that's why I'm suggesting, non-financial advice, of course, that you wait for reclaims of certain key levels. So we've given all those key levels, right? Let's quickly go over here just to recap those key levels. So we said the most aggressive point that you would start to get optimistic about price again and bulls are in control is if they can get above 111,678. That's that price label over there. That is above the 50 and 200 EMA, which is about to cross down on the daily time frame. And then your really conservative entry point, which means that you are a real safe shooter, right? You're super, super careful in the market. Then you want to see actually price get above 116,600 and then some sort of a pullback after that. On the daily, above your RSI pivot level, by the way. So that's allowing the daily RSI to move up. But yeah, I wouldn't expect necessarily fireworks, right? I want to be clear. I consider fireworks this, right? Let's just not get confused, because you may do this today. You may rally all the way up to $111,000. But for me, fireworks is that. You rally up all the way to like 120K, get back above these levels. That's a firework display for me personally. So what you're looking at over here on the low time frames, the hourly, you're theoretically coming directly into resistance. I have mapped it out. What we've looked at is just simply the little lower high that you have here. We marked off as the local top. We looked at the low that's occurred over here, and then we lined it up with our Fibonacci tool, which has a little bit of confluence, right? You have your high, you have your lower high, potentially another lower high that could start to form over here. That lower high lines up exactly at the 0.786, 104,341. Give it a little bit of time. You have a few hours after watching the show. I would say a little bit of potential for the bulls if you can just break that downtrend. And I'll also make this a bit thicker for you to see nicely. There we go. So you want to see that at least break, right? You want to run down or run through that, run through that and maybe take out these highs. That's a market structure shift. And then you can look into the next higher low. So wait for something like that, right? Don't get bullish right into resistance over here, which is what happened yesterday. That's what happened yesterday, right? Price ran up, bullish into resistance, nailed it down in the New York session. I don't know if it's going to get smashed down again, but it's possible. And let's have a look at the 4 hour just to see where there it is. You have your 50 EMA on the 4 hour as well, coming in exactly as confluence with this hourly resistance zone. So I never encourage people to blindly just set limit shorts or longs. I think that it's always better to observe price as it comes into an area of interest. I think it's pretty clear that this is an area of interest. So if you were looking for a short trade, you kind of want to watch that 5-minute chart in this area begin to roll over. So kind of like this, right? You can see over here, the structure began to shift slightly, right? Price was putting in nice higher highs, high lows, high highs, high lows, high highs, high lows, and then boom, lower low, lower high. There it is. Exactly over here. That would have been a short opportunity. Stop loss goes above there. Boom, you would have ridden that all the way down. Unfortunately, I wasn't awake when that happened. But if that happens over here, there's your chance, right? So if you start to struggle to get above the Monday low of this week, which is coming in at 104,248, and then you can see written over there as well, 104,341. If you start to sense a bit of weakness there, this has been quite a big move up. Start to get a little bit of a reversely look over there. Lower highs, lower lows. Stop loss goes above, or you can float it above these highs over there, and then you can short that back down to the low for low time frame traders, right? If you're a scalper. So if you do want to take that trade, guys, keep trading on gravity, right? This was our Zcash trade. Look at that. We basically sold exactly at the top. Of course, do have a little bit on the table over here. I have a little bit. I'm actually getting paid to hold these positions open because there are more shorts now, but down 33% since our exit. I've left like a little flyer of a bag, like 5% of the trade is still on the table just in case. But what's more important about this is gravity, right? Gravity is the perpetual DEX. Remember, we are trading for volume over here. Where's our volume? Let me have a look over here. Where's our volume? Do they have, okay, they have the gravity airdrop. They also have a competition that's going on over here. What's this about? Okay, I think it's over here. Let me have a look at the gravity airdrop, see what the points look like. So we're accruing points over here. We're accruing points. We're accruing volume. We're in season 2. There's a link in the description below if you haven't already joined. But for those of you in, I would say just keep trading there, right? Just this gravity. I've only taken 2 trades there. I took Bitcoin long. We closed that. We moved that into Zcash. I held that position. I shaved incremental profits along the way, but it still accrues volume every single day that the trade is open based on the natural fluctuations. And that's earning us points, which we're going to get for the airdrop when the airdrop comes out. So I'm trying to find as many, call it free ways for you guys to make money. You do have to risk a little bit of money when you trade there, but you can take low risk trades, right? Move your stops to break even or into slight profit as quick as possible, and you just leave it open, and that's that. And gravity is accruing us points. Anyway, back onto this chart over here. If we're going to get a rejection exactly at this zone, pretty interesting. It's been a big move up. We're on the 5-minute chart. What you have over here is also USDT dominance on the 4 hourly, which I want to remind you is it broke out of that ascending triangle, high lows, equal highs, broke out, almost met the measured move, came back down, was putting in lower lows and lower highs, broke structure, put in high highs and high lows again. Will it bounce? That's the question. Will it bounce over here? Well, any bounce that occurs off of this is probably going to lead to that rejection, which means you can begin to look for those short trades. I think this is a pretty good short trade actually already, even at this level over here. When you're studying something like this on the 5-minute chart, I think it's going to be difficult, and I'll highlight the box over here. I think bulls will struggle to get above this without at least putting in a pullback. Okay, above that little order block over there that led to that whole downside move. So coming into this region over here, you have your trend line, you have everything going on over there. I think that even if you're going to melt through this, you're probably still going to drop off first like that to put in a high low anyway. So low time frame traders, if you're in probably Europe, UK, Southern Africa, parts of the world that are awake, maybe certain parts of the US, I think on the West Coast, maybe you guys are still awake. Here's some opportunity for you, right? You need to know what you're doing. I want to be clear. Nobody that if you haven't traded and you don't understand, don't just blindly take that trade. But anyways, keeping an eye out on this. I'm watching very, very, very carefully over here. This could theoretically be where your next high-low forms on USDT dominance on the hourly chart over there, and that's going to affect the rest of the market. So for the most part, that's what I wanted to cover for Bitcoin specifically. We can have a look at a couple of other things. Let's see over here. You guys say East Coast is awake. If you are from the East Coast, good morning. Good morning. All right. ETH BTC still in that zone where potentially this could be putting in a high low and begin to bounce out of here. Only time will tell. But that time should come very, very, very soon if it is at all going to happen, right? Order block led to the big move towards the upside. 0.382 fib, we got the 50% level, which hit. It could come lower. Like, I don't want to rule out I like this as confluence because of that trend line. But of course, this could theoretically come into those previous highs as low as that. It's just, you have to have one level at a time. First level over here of interest, we need to see that level hold, right? Okay. Amazing. So what else? What else have we got over here? Guys, another opportunity for you. BitUnix, they extended their offer because a lot of you asked. It ended on Sunday, and now they extended it till the 17th of November. Remember, this is your opportunity to get 20% rebate for free. So if you use the link in the description below for BitUnix, that link specifically will qualify you for that 20%. You deposit $2,000, you get $400. I believe that those of you that did it last week, we checked up with them. The payout happens, I think it was 6 or 7 days later. So you should have, if you did it last week, you should have just been paid out now. Okay. If you haven't, you can let us know. For those of you in Whale Room, let us know if you have an issue. But we did check with them just yesterday, and I believe you guys have been getting paid there. Also, if you want a free Bitcoin, for those of you that are awake in the East Coast, you can enter into the competition with Easy Bitcoin. It's very simple. You only have to do one of three things. Let me just check my notes. You opt into their newsletter, you set up a one-time buy, or you set up a recurring buy, which is preferable. I think that's the best thing for this app. This thing only buys Bitcoin. There's no trading over here. You don't do limit orders and things like that. It's meant to be that. It's Easy Bitcoin. Literally look at the phone. Very, very, very easy. You just download the app. It's only for the US. Just to be clear, it's not anywhere else. You download the app, deposit capital, use Apple Pay or whatever it is that you want to fund the account, and you set up a recurring buy feature, and it just simply stacks away, stacking sats, buys away. They are giving away one full Bitcoin for those of you wanting to participate. The link is below, but unfortunately, it's only for those of you in the US, right? They haven't come global yet or worldwide yet. So I think that's a nice incentive. Okay, back to ETH. So looking at ETH BTC, we have this area, potential high-low that could form over here. When we look at the ETH chart, it's obviously got a little bit ugly over here, but you have hit theoretically exactly into that mid-range on that wick, depending on which exchange you're looking at. This is on Binance. Some of the liquidations came down as low as that. And yeah, now if we start to see a little bit of structure shifting, things moving and bouncing out over here, it will probably happen at some point in December. I would anticipate it. Like if you draw out the LARP lines, it would probably be something like that. So I don't want to say that this target is never happening. 7,900. That is the measured move of the breakout of this rectangle, which is a very, very, very long time range. Your time reinforces a level. We did speak about this at the time. Time reinforces a level. That was your last time hitting that. That was a very, very, very long time. So it is kind of wishful thinking that it's going to smash through on the first attempt and just run. And it didn't. It rejected. It came down. Usually if that happens, you will come down more or less around that mid-range. So I think that if you are playing the altcoin sector, ETH still remains the best bet. Better than Solana. And I'm not just guessing. The reason why is because if you look at the ETH, if you look at the Solana BTC chart, it's still going to be distributing. If you look at the Solana ETH chart, it's also still distributing. Whereas ETH BTC has promise. It has promise of life over here that it could potentially bounce out of there. So what you want to be paying attention to and watching very carefully is any bit of support that starts to form over here. And if the bull is still on, that is your opportunity. That is your opportunity over there. Okay, cool. Let's see in the comments. What else have we got? Let's check it out. Any other kinds of requests? I'm going to be honest with you guys. You know, most of the other things that are in there, most of the other altcoins to look at are just horrendous. So I'm trying to stick with the things that look good. For example, there is Solana, right? Breaking all the way down. Yes, you have some key support over here, but if we go back to Solana on this chart, since we said it was probably going to reject, I think it dropped like 12%. We were targeting 175. It even got front run. It broke that down 9% to the low. It dropped 15% over there. Okay, 15% down. So you have to be careful with some of these pumps. Don't get drawn in too quickly. Zoom out, look at the high time frames, weekly charts, things like that. Vitally, vitally important. And I think that the bulls have a lot of work to do still. And I think Solana could quite easily drop to about 110, unfortunately. Same thing, it needs to recover certain key levels, but it's just not a healthy looking chart because the structure is broken. The orange line is broken. That has been your high lows, your trend line. The trend has shifted. Lower lows, lower highs. You broke that structure. You broke the mid-range. This means this is a fortress of resistance coming in the form of the mid-range, in the form of the breakdown level, the order block that led to that breakdown, in the form of as well the trend line. So all of this is going to be really difficult for the soul bulls to get back above. Okay, Zcash, I said to me it's going to have topped before December. It may have already topped. That may be it. And we spoke about that, the complacency bounce. Euphoria comes down, complacency bounce, rejects. We haven't entered into depression phase or anything like that yet. Google the Wall Street cheat sheet if you want more information on what that looks like. There will be this extended trend line, which I guess we can draw up a little bit more. And I do expect some support to be found over here. So I would say probably something like this may lead to a little bit of a bounce, but my optimal area is going to be around that 303, which will still keep us below our original entry on the trade that we took, because we got in quite early on that. I think our entry price is 235. So that's why I'll just leave some on the table. It's safe. The trade entry is safe. We took profits at the top. Nothing really to change over there. Okay. I went through the list. I'm going to be honest with you. I went through the list of everything here, guys, and there was nothing that looked good. Same story as yesterday. Everything looks terrible. Bitcoin still looks heavy. You got to wait. There's a time and a place to trade aggressively, and then there's a time and a place to just sit on your hands and just wait and only take low time frame trades. Let's actually have a look at that. So there it is. Bitcoin starting to reject over there. Hasn't got a full-on shift yet, but very, very, very possible that you're going to get a short trade from somewhere around here. So something like this, float those stops up there, trade this at least down there. That's giving you a 1.7. If you come down here to 100K, I think it will break because you've tested it so many times. You could probably leave it for further down. But it depends where you get your entry from, right? I would wait. I would wait for a proper shift and breakdown on the 5-minute chart over here, which is just putting in high highs and high lows. So, maybe you do one more up like that, come down, set in that lower high, enter on the lower high, stops go above, and that's it. You have a beautiful trade on your hands. We'll see what New York does later on today. So, yeah, comments. Let me know, guys, what you think. Let's check on our polls over there as well. How has this shifted? Very unlikely as 31% of you, possibly 35%. 31% of you believe it's the final shakeout before the mother of all moves. And then we have always the peanut gallery, 3%. You have to let us know in the comments what your thoughts are if you're part of the peanut gallery. Everyone deserves a voice, right? You have your optionality for your voice right over here. There it is. Come in the comment section and let us know your thoughts, right? Cool. So look, I'm not over trading, guys. I'm simply patiently just waiting for the best opportunities. And yeah, there are low time frame trades. We do drop them in whale room as well. If you are in whale room, you would see everything in here, right? The traders are definitely crushing it across the board, right? Gold, everything, absolutely amazing. Farouk is crushing it when it comes to gold trading. He hardly even trades crypto anymore. He's like just basically moved full on into gold trading. So for those of you that want to get into whale room, you're going to have to join the waiting list. There isn't any places available yet, but we're going to try and make a plan towards the end of this month. So just join on the waiting list if you want to get in there. And then really, that's it from me. I'll see you guys all on the next one. I hope you have a great day. Quick show, short and sweet. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good one and cheers for now.